Hi there, I'm Jessica. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be making the Lemonza Clutch from Country Cow Designs. This little thing is so adorable. It came together very quickly. You don't need a lot of material. On this one, I did use a feature snap. It's a half moon snap. You don't have to use one of those. You can use a magnetic snap or even a fashion snap if you'd like. So you open up the flap and then you have a slip pocket. It fits my large phone. And then on the inside, you've got 12 card slots, a slip pocket on the left side, a slip pocket on the right side, along with a zip pocket for your change or anything you may need. This thing has a lot of space in it. It's a wallet, it's a wristlet. You can turn it into a crossbody if you want to. I want to say thank you so much to Country Cow Designs for allowing me to use your pattern on my channel. And also, Country Cow Designs has a coupon code for you guys for 10% off for the Lemonza Clutch pattern purchased from their website. I will have their website linked below and also the coupon code listed below. It will be effective until Friday, April the 21st. So go ahead and grab your pattern and your materials and let's get into it. Let's go over the materials that we need for this pattern. You're gonna need 2/3 of a yard of exterior fabric. You're gonna need 3/4 of a yard for your lining. I'm using cotton canvas and then I'm using luxe nylon for the exterior. And then for the lining, I'm using waterproof canvas. If you are using quilt cotton, you will need to use medium weight woven interfacing. You'll need about 3/4 of a yard, and then you'll need about 2/3 of a yard of lightweight non-woven interfacing. This is to reduce bulk in the seams and also reduce bulk when you're using it on your card slots. And then also for your flap, you're gonna need some Decoville Heavy, which is this right here. If you do not have any Decoville Heavy, you can always use 2 layers of Decoville Light. That'll work just fine. You can also use some Peltex if you'd like. I prefer to use the Decoville Heavy, so it's totally up to you. Let's go over our pattern pieces. You have the option to do a crossbody strap, but I'm going to do a wrist strap instead. So you'll need 1 cut for the wrist strap. It also calls for Decoville Light or Decoville Heavy, but I will not be using a stabilizer for my wristlet strap. So I'll go ahead and set that aside. And next, you're going to need your 2 cuts for the exterior main panels, and then your 2 cuts of Decoville Heavy. All right, and set that aside. Next, you're gonna have 2 cuts for your flap, and you're also gonna have your lining, so your exterior and your lining. I've got Decoville Heavy on here. If you do not have Decoville Heavy, you'll need to put Decoville Light, 1 on each side. Make sure that they are on at the same place so that this comes out accurately in the end. You'll need 2 cuts of your lining, main panels here. And then your next one, you'll need 2 cuts for your front slip pocket, your exterior fabric, and then a lining fabric. Next, you'll need your overlay and then the stabilizers. I have already ironed on my stabilizers here, and I'm using 1-inch D-ring. So I did change the measurements on the overlay. So I've only increased it by 3/4 of an inch. You'll need 2 cuts of your zip pocket for the lining. You've got your 1 cut for your zip pocket facing. You've got 4 cuts of the 4 accent lining pieces. This will go on the sides of your card slots. You have your wings here. You need to have 8 wings in total. They need to be mirroring each other. So when you cut them, they should look like this, like so. So they should be mirrored. Whenever I cut them, I like to use the pattern piece and fold over my material and cut while they're folded, and then you'll have your mirrored images. So make sure they are mirrored and make sure you have 8 in total. So 4 on the inside and 4 on the exterior, and then you'll have 2 cuts for your card slots. Here are the rest of the materials I'll be using throughout the construction of this bag. It is noted in the pattern to use a number 3 zipper tape. However, I really wanted to use rainbow, so I changed that to a number 5 zipper tape and number 5 zipper pull. I also am changing the dimensions just a little bit where the D-rings are. Instead of using 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to be using a 1 inch. I did do that in the previous bag and it worked out just great. And then I've got my 1 inch swivel hook. I have a ton of clips here. I've got my magnetic snap and also the dies to install the magnetic snap. I've got my hole punch and then my rivet press. I've got double-sided sticky tape. I've got my handmade my bag tag, my snips, some scissors, and I've got my lighter, and then also my 2-in-1 stiletto seam ripper, a chalk pencil, and then an air erasing marker. And then today I'm going to be using Tex 35 weight in the color Groovy. This is from Wizardry Stitchery. In this step, we are going to go ahead and create the wrist strap. I am not going to be doing the crossbody option. You can follow the steps in the pattern if you do want to do the crossbody, but I'm going to go ahead and do the wrist strap. I've got the wrist strap material here. I'm not using a stabilizer for this. I've got a marking tool, double-sided tape, my swivel hook, and a ruler. The iron is ready to go, and I have my mat behind me. And what we're gonna do is flip this over and you wanna mark the center. I've already marked the center. And then next you'll wanna do is you're gonna mark 4 inches in from the edges. So 4 inches from here, and then 4 inches from here. And you're gonna make a line up. And then what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make a diagonal line on each square here. So we're gonna make a diagonal line that is running from this side to this end here. So from this edge to the end here is where you're gonna mark a diagonal line. And then you're going to do the same thing on this side, running in the same direction. So it's gonna go from this corner down to the end of this marked line. So it should look like this. I hope you can see those lines, but the line is diagonal. They're both going the same direction. All right. Now I'm going to grab my mat here and we're going to fold this in half. I'm going to go ahead and iron this down. Go ahead and create this mark here. All right, then we're going to open this up and we're going to bring your edges and meet your edge to that center mark. I'm going to iron this down. You probably don't want to use a heat erasing marking tool here because then you'll take away everything you've just marked on here. I use a water erasing marking tool. Flip this over and do the same on the other side. Okay, all right. Now see. We want to make sure this is straight. That's looking good. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some double-sided tape from this line to this line. This will help us later on when we want to put it back together. Now we're going to fold this back here, and we'll go ahead and put on your swivel hook. Like so. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the edges, and we're going to place these together. We're turning this around, right sides together at a 90-degree angle, okay? Okay, your lines should be going in the same direction. So you should have your line going from this direction all the way down. Okay, make sure that the other side is running in the same direction, and it is. We'll go ahead and clip this together. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew right along this line. All right, now you want to go ahead and trim this off about a 1/4 inch away from your stitching. You want to press your seams open. So go ahead and do that. Okay, now that we've cut that off and ironed down our seams, we want to go ahead and fold down your edges to match that center line. And this is where that double-sided tape is really going to help you out here. You can use your iron if you'd prefer to do that, but I think this is a lot easier to do. You just take a little bit off at a time. Make sure you pull your swivel hook out of the way and just meet this middle line. And you want to do that for both sides. Now we are going to fold this back over in half. And this is where I'm going to use clips. You can iron this if you'd like. We are going to sew down each side at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Remember to move your swivel hook out of the way as you sew. Just kidding. We're going to sew this at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down both sides. This is what you should have. Now you're going to find out where you want to fold this. I'm going to go where that seam is, where I started my stitching, right where we cut that seam. And I'm going to put a rivet here. I will do that in just a little bit, but if you'd like to, you can sew a box here, or you can sew a couple of rows of stitches. That will work out just fine, but I am going to add a rivet to this. All right, while I've got the rivet press out, I'm gonna go ahead and put my rivet into my wrist strap. I've already made my center mark here, so I'm gonna take the hole punch and make a hole. All right, I'm gonna put this rivet in here. These are 9mm rivets here. I've already got the dies in place, so I will go ahead and insert this in here and give it a good little press. All right, and there we go. We've got the wrist strap all done. In step 3, you are going to be working on the back exterior panel. So what we're going to need is your main exterior panel. You're going to need your exterior flap, the flap lining, your overlays, and the stabilizer. I have already ironed my stabilizer on, so you'll need both of those. And then you're going to need your stabilizer for the main panel. You're going to need a marking tool. I've got my rivet press here so that we can install the male magnetic end. I've got the female die already inserted in here, and then I've got stabilizer just to add a little bit of stability, and then I've got the hole punch here. Okay, so now we're going to grab our exterior flap and then also the lining and place them right sides together. I'm going to clip them in place, and what we're going to do is we're going to sew from the top right edge and come all the way down the bottom back up to the left. We're going to leave this top opening, the straight edge, alone, so don't sew the top edge here. You want to make sure to have your stabilizer already fused to your flap, and we're going to use this as a seam guide here, so you'll want to sew along your stabilizer here. You might want to go ahead and switch your foot to a zipper foot. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and punch a hole right where we made that 1-inch mark. All right, and then I'm going to grab some pinking shears. I forgot to mention these before. If you don't have pinking shears, you can go ahead and cut little snips if you want to, or little triangles. You just want to get the curves nice and trimmed so that they lie nice and flat once we turn this over. Just be careful not to cut any of your stitches. If your curves are not perfect, it's okay. You can go ahead and do them over if you'd like. Go ahead and flip your flap right sides out. Okay, so I'll probably end up taking this over to the iron because the stabilizer did come undone a little bit, and that's okay. We'll just go ahead and iron this real fast, and I'll be right back. Okay, I went ahead and got that all pressed. Now, if you're using quilt cotton, you definitely want to press this. There's a lot of pressing in this pattern when you've got quilt cotton. But all right, so I already made the hole here for the rivets, but first I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Keep this flap open. Well, that looks good. That's so pretty. I love the colors on this. Who doesn't like rainbow, right? Okay. So what I forgot to do is also place a hole in the stabilizer here. I'll go ahead and do that right in the center. Okay. And then I'm going to install this. I'm going to put this right in here and find the hole, match up the holes in here. All right, and then I'm going to place the magnetic snap, the male end, on the lining part. You want to make sure that the male end is on the lining part. And then I'm going to put the rainbow rivet over the top that is on your exterior side. So the exterior side, if you've got a rivet, you could always put the rivet inside if you want, but I like the way that it looks on the outside. So I'm gonna go ahead and place this right in to my dies here, and they should fall right in, and gently press. All right, and there we go. We've got this done. I believe we can go ahead and sew this top edge up. So go ahead and close your top edge up at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and grab your overlays here, and what we're going to do is flip them over. You should have your stabilizers already ironed on, and what we're going to do is we are going to fold the edges over along your stabilizer. You can clip them in place, or you can use double-sided tape here. You can iron if you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and clip them together. It's okay if there's a gap in the middle or if they're overlapping each other. It will be just fine, so don't worry about that. All right, and here's what you should have. What we're going to do is we are going to top stitch them at a 1/4 inch seam allowance down both long edges. A 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, and this is what you should have. Okay, now you want to grab your overlays, your main panel here, and then your flap. You want to grab a couple of marking tools. Since I have this white splatter material, I'm going to use an air erasing marker, and then also I'm going to be using a chalk pencil for this nylon material. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple measurements on both of your overlays, and we're going to make them 1 inch in and also 1.5 inches in from both sides. So one inch in and then 1.5 inches in on both overlays on both sides. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple marks on your exterior main panel. I'm going to grab my chalk pencil for this and also my big ruler over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to mark 2 inches down and then 2 3/4 down. Two inches down. All right, and then 2 3, actually it's 2 3/8 down, excuse me. Let's see, 1 2 3. All right, 2 3/8. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to lay this up just like this, and we're going to grab our flap here. And what we're going to do is you want to make sure to have that mark here, okay, your center mark here. And you also need a center mark for here, which I'll go ahead and do real quick. I'm going to make a little snip right here. Well, Well, maybe not with these scissors. Hold on here. Okay. I'm also going to take my ruler and I'm going to just mark the center down like so. So grab your main flap and have it right side up. And what you want to do is line up the center mark with the center mark on the panel with this first line. So this 2-inch line here. You can use double-sided tape here if you'd like to hold this down, but you want this flap exterior to be right on top of this first line right at the center. And what we're going to do is we're going to baste this down. I'm going to grab my double-sided tape here. I'm going to line this up at the bottom here. All right. Now what we're going to do is you're going to take your overlay. The one that I made 1 inch wide is the one I'm going to lay here because I have 1 inch wide D-rings. So what you want to do is you want to place your overlay, the bottom of your overlay, on top of the line, the second line that you made here. And these are going to be off the edges a little bit, and that's okay. That's what we want because of your D-rings, but just make sure that they're hanging off the edge about the same, okay? So what we're gonna do is you can grab some double-sided tape or glue, whatever you want to use here. Make sure that the wrong side is gonna be face down. What we're going to do is we're going to sew a box. We're going to sew a box from this not the first line, but the second line. So the one that's in between these two lines. So sew from this box, not this box, but sew from this line to this line at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, making a rectangle. Now you want to grab your D-rings and you want to place them in here. Place them up here against what you just sewn here, nice and snug. And what we're going to do is you want to make sure to have your zipper foot on here because we're going to sew another box as close as we can right here along your D-ring and make another box over here. All right, and here's what you should have. That looks pretty good. Okay, and here is what you should have. You can add rivets to each side of the D-ring if you like. That will add some bling to it, and also it will add some more stability for the D-rings. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to fuse your stabilizer to the back of this panel. Now, you have got to make sure that you follow the instructions in the pattern. It needs to be 3/8 of an inch from the top, 3/8 of an inch from both sides, and the bottom is going to be bigger, but it needs to be exact because this is going to affect the assembly of your bag. So I had to trim this down just a little bit, and I may have to trim it down just a little bit more to make sure that it's 3/8 of an inch on all 3 of these sides. So I'm going to make sure that it's accurate, and then I'm going to fuse this down. Be careful with your D-rings. If it's not fused totally down where the D-rings are, it's okay. It's still going to be fine. Don't worry about that. All right, so let's go ahead and get this measured correctly and fuse this on. All right, now we've got this fused on. It looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we are going to flip this wrong side up, and we are going to take the bottom and we're going to fold that edge right up against that stabilizer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to baste that in place. This does not have to be pretty. You're not going to see this in the end, but they do have a very unique way of closing up this bag. So these steps that are being done in the pattern is to have it turn out. It's just cool. You'll see in the end how we turn out this bag. All right, I believe we are done with step 3, so we're going to move on to step number 4, which is the front exterior panel. Okay, for step number 4, the front exterior panel, we are going to need the rivet press, the female end of the magnetic snap, and then I've got the male die to install that, and I've got the stabilizer to give it more stability. And then what we're going to need, we'll need the other exterior main panel. You're going to need your stabilizer. You will need your front slip pocket, exterior and the lining. And then you're going to need this because we're going to have to do a little bit of math and a ruler to go ahead and do this next part. So no matter what kind of snap you're using, you'll want to measure. I'm going to use this little 1 by 3 inch ruler here. You're going to measure from the top edge all the way down to that center mark where the magnetic mark is. Mine is about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deduct 3/4 of an inch from 3 inches, which is going to be 2 1/4. So that's what's going to be my measurement for my slip pocket. Okay, you'll want to have your exterior pocket, the slip pocket, and you're going to mark the center. Okay, mark the center, and the measurements that you just made, you're going to use that here to place your female end of your snap. So mine's going to be 2 1/4. So I'm going to go down the center mark 2 1/4 and make a mark. I've got my mark here. So what we're going to do is, since I've got my rivet press here, I'm going to, I forgot, I'll need a hole punch. I'm going to make a hole in the center of my stabilizer. Just going to eyeball that. And then what we'll do is make a hole where we just marked. Okay. Pull that out here. And then this side is the exterior, so I want to make sure that the female snap end is facing the right side. So we want the magnetic snap and the female end to be on the exterior. And then on the other side, I'm going to place the stabilizer in here, and then I'll add the rivet right at the top. So now what we're going to do is make sure you have the longest edge of your lining face down with your exterior pocket. Again, let's see. We want to make sure you're doing the right, yeah. Okay. Okay. And then we are going to sew this down at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So what we're going to do now is we are going to flip these wrong sides together, And what she wants you to do in the pattern is you want to have a little bit of the lining peeking through, just so it looks a little bit like piping, like this. So if you want to go and iron that, go ahead and iron that. I'm just going to give it a little press. I'm going to clip it here, make sure it's even. And then I'm going to sew this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and grab your exterior panel, and then you'll want to get your slip pocket and place it right on top of your exterior panel, and you want the edges at the bottom to be matching, and then your sides are going to overlap just a little bit by 1/8 of an inch, and you want that because you want the center to have a little bit of fluffiness because it's your pocket. So go ahead and line up your edges. And then clip your sides. Okay, now that you've got your exterior panel and your exterior slip pocket pinned together here or clipped together, you want to lift up the exterior slip pocket, only the exterior. So your lining and the exterior panel will be together, okay? So exterior panel or exterior slip pocket should be up right now. You're gonna take a ruler and we're going to measure 1 inch up from the bottom. And then we're going to leave this up, and what we're going to do now is we're going to sew on the 1 inch mark that you just made, okay? Exterior slip pocket is out of the way. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're still keeping the exterior slip pocket out of the way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to trim the bottom right here. We're going to trim this off, the lining and the exterior panel of the bottom, not the exterior slip pocket, okay? So this is what you should have right now, just like this. Now we're going to baste down the sides. Each side is going to go ahead and get basted. And after we baste the sides down, what we're going to do is we're going to take our stabilizer and we're going to iron it on the same way we did the other main panel. It needs to be done the exact same way that we did it before. So 3/8 of an inch from the side, the top, and the right side. And then you're going to have a gap here because we're going to fold this up again like we did on the other panel. So again, I'm going to baste the sides, and then we're going to iron on the stabilizer. So this is what you should have, your other exterior main panel. It's okay if you weren't able to use the iron on there. You probably don't want to do that anyways, but here we go. We've got our slip pocket. That looks pretty good. All right, so now what we're going to do is flip this over, and we are going to take the end here and flip it up and clip it and sew it together. All right, here we go. We're going to move on to the next step. All right, next step, which is going to be step number 5. We are going to be working on the lining zip pocket and the wings. So what you're going to need are the exterior and lining wings. You're going to need your zip pocket facing, your zip pocket lining material, and then your main, just one of your lining main panels. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our lining main panel, and we're going to put it right side up. Now keep in mind that it is 8 inches wide and 7 inches tall. I went ahead and marked on the back top here so that I know I'm using the right side of the material here. So now what we're gonna do is take a ruler and we are going to mark 5/8 of an inch from the top. Go ahead and grab your zip pocket facing. Now I've already made the measurements on the back. You'll want to follow along on with the pattern. I did change the measurement just a little bit because I'm using a number 5 zipper tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half so that we have our center here. And then I'm going to line up the center with the top edge, or the top edge of the zip facing panel with the top line that we just marked, along with that center mark. So matching the center mark with the center of your zip facing panel here. And they should be, each side should have the same measurement here. You can use double-sided tape here if you want to, or glue here, or you can use pins if you want to. I'm not going to use pins. I'm just going to use these clips because they're long enough to go ahead and keep in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew along these lines on the rectangle, and I'm also going to have a smaller stitch once I get to the corners of each corner to make them smaller. This is going to help make this the corners not pucker in the end. Right, and there we go. So what we're gonna do is, you can take a craft knife if you want to, or some really sharp scissors. I like to use these really sharp scissors to this, because what you want to do is get as close as you can in the corners of those stitches. You don't want to cut your stitches, so be careful with that, but you want to get as close as you can to your stitches. What you want to do now is go ahead and iron each side here. Okay, this is going to help whenever you pull it on the other side. So go ahead and press, and then bring this through the other side, and then give that a press. Okay, so this is what you should have. It should look like this, just like so. All right, I also forgot to add on my bag tag, so I went ahead and did that. I added the bag tag to the back panel. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside for now. Now we're going to work on the zipper pocket lining. So you'll want to grab your zipper pull and your zipper tape. I like to trim mine a little bit bigger than what the pattern calls for, just personal preference. I'm going to attach my zipper pull here. I like to check on the teeth and see which one is on the top, and it's going to be the right over here. So I will insert the triangular shape, I guess, on the right side first, and hold it in place and kind of gently slide in the left side. And I like to look at it from the top just to make sure that I'm getting the right tooth right above the left side. This one actually might need to be trimmed down just a little bit more because it's got a snag. Just kind of burn this down a little bit. You don't want to melt it and keep it there for too long. So it's still the right side over here. Let's try this again. All right, again, I'm looking at it from the top here. Okay, just a little bit. Now I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to hold it down here, and yep, I've done it. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we'll go ahead and do the zipper pocket lining here. So what you want to do is have one of your lining face up. Since I'm using waterproof canvas, you know that the wrong side is going to be like that waxy side. So we want to put your zipper tape right on top. So lining right side up, and your zipper pull, or your zipper is right side up. And I'm going to clip this together. I'm going to use these clips instead. So I put this on wrong. Your zipper pull, this is just personal preference, but this is actually opening to the left and closing to the right. It should be the opposite direction, so it should be opening to the right and closing to the left, but that's okay, because what's going to happen is we're going to put the other side of our lining on, so right side up, and you're going to place this right side up, and that will be fixed. So no problem there. So let me make sure I've got the right side up. This is the right side here. And then the right side lining up, and you want to take this, the right side, and line it up here. And since I'm using a little bit of a longer zipper tape, you want to make sure that your edges of your lining match up. If you're not doing what I'm doing, then proceed as you would. Okay, so now you should have the zipper right side up, and then this should be the wrong side of your fabric, right, facing up. And then now you want to go ahead and iron down your zip. Just be careful, because we don't want your zipper to melt. Since I'm using waterproof canvas, I just, I'm gonna press down the seams a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to leave this open. We are going to take your, the zip pocket, and we're going to lay this right on top. Okay, and we're going to keep this lining open. We're gonna sew it just like so, keeping it open. And if you want to use some double-sided tape or some glue, you can do that. And what I'm gonna do is use some double-sided tape. You wanna make sure that it is as straight as you can get it, and it's equal on both sides here. So what I'm gonna do is we're going to sew this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure not to hit your zipper. Pull it out of the way as you come close to it. There we go. So now what we're gonna do is flip this over. We are going to, oh, they're a little off, but that's okay. We're going to close this up. You've got a 3/8 inch seam allowance here anyways, no big deal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close up this pocket. I'm going to lift up the edges and sew down the bottom, or down the side, down the bottom, and then back up the left side to close up this pocket. You've got your pocket. It's all done. That is so cute. I love that. All right, let's go ahead and do our wings. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to match up our lining with our exterior and make sure they're right sides together. And we're going to, like so, and like that. Here we go. Nope. Oh, like this. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna clip these together and we're gonna sew on the bottom edge, the angled edge, and the top edge. We're leaving the straight edge open. We're going to sew this at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now what we're going to do is we're going to trim the corners, not super close to stitching, but maybe 1/8 of an inch away from it. I also like to kind of cut little angles along the corners. You want to probably grab a turning tool. And we're going to turn these right side out very carefully. I'm going to take these to the iron, get them nice and flat, top stitch them at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to leave the angled edge alone, so no top stitching there, so it's going to be your top edge, the straight edge, and your bottom edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Again, don't top stitch the angle here. We've got our wings. That is complete. All right, so now for step 6, what we're gonna need is our lining pieces. So we're working on our card slots, so you'll need both of those, and then we're gonna have our side accents, and there are 4 of those. The measurements for your card slots are in the pattern, so you'll want to go ahead and mark all of them on the back of your material. I'm going to go ahead and mark mine. Go ahead, like I said, the measurements are in the pattern, and I will show you how to fold them and get them looking like card slots. Okay, so what we're going to do with our card slots is you want to mark the top and the bottom. Okay, I already have all the measurements here. My air erasing marker, the markings are about to disappear, so I'm gonna have to hurry or I'll be marking them again. You probably don't want to use a heat erasing marker because if you're going to be ironing this, it will disappear. So try to use something that will not disappear. Don't use a permanent marker. Oops, sorry. Don't use a permanent marker. Nothing like that. But anyways, you want to mark the top and the bottom, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fold your 1/2 inch at the bottom and at the top, and you're going to iron those down, okay? And then you're going to start from the bottom, and you're going to fold the bottom wrong sides together, okay? So you're gonna find that mark that you drew here, wrong sides together. And then you are going to iron this down. And then the next line is going to be right sides together, okay? Right sides together, and then you're going to iron this down, okay? The next line is going to be wrong sides together, okay? So we're alternating. Each line is wrong, right, all the way to the top, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get that done. I'm gonna go to the ironing table. Okay, this is what you should have, your card slots. They're not perfect. Mine never are. I'm okay with that. You can top stitch each slot if you'd like to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to mark the center, which I have already done, and I'm going to stitch up and then one stitch over and then back down on both of them to divide your card slots. You don't want to sew over your slip pocket though, so make sure you pull that out from behind and go ahead and sew up your middle line. Okay, now you want to grab both of your lining main panels. One will not have a zip pocket and the other one will. And remember, the other one, it should be 8 inches tall and 8 inches wide. I've marked a T for top here. So what we're going to do now is you're going to take your ruler and we're going to mark 1 inch from the bottom. Okay, and what we're going to do with this mark is we're going to take our card slots, and we are going to line this up with the 1 inch mark that we just made. Okay, so line up your card slots with the 1 inch mark that you just made, and make sure that it also has the same amount of space on the top, so you don't want it to be lopsided or anything. So if your card slots are a little wonky on the side, it's okay, because you're gonna put side panels up and you are going to have a 3/8 inch seam allowance here, so you've got a little bit of room for error here, so don't worry about it. So next what we're going to do is we're actually going to lift up your card slots, and we are going to top stitch this folded edge that's up here. You see that top stitch? We're going to top stitch that. Same thing on the other one. So move your clips up a little bit, and we are going to top stitch, whoops, that fold. I'll need to fix that. Excuse me, we're going to base this down the left side, down at the bottom, and up the right side. We're going to do that for both panels. What we're going to do is we're going to take our accents here, and we're going to lay them right sides together on the edges here. is go to your iron and go ahead and you'll want to open these up, and then we're going to top stitch these at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now we're going to go ahead and grab both of your lining panels, and we're going to grab that paper piece. It's the main paper piece that has the dotted line on it that was noted in the pattern to save for later. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold that at the dotted line, and what you're going to do is both pattern pieces, you're going to, I found the center mark on here, and I also found the center mark on both panels on the bottom. And what you want to do is line it up on the bottom at the center mark, and what you're going to do is you're going to cut the edges around so that it's the same size as this paper piece. Okay, so you do that with both sides. Okay, so I went ahead and trimmed those down, and then I went ahead and made a mark. So you'll need to make a 1-inch mark from the bottom here on both panels, on both sides. This is where we're going to attach the wings. So I'll start with 1. All right, so the way we want to attach our wings is we want to have the top edge that's wider to go on the top. The bottom edge that is shorter needs to go on the bottom. Okay, so the exterior needs to be facing this way, so that way when you open it you have the interior. Okay, and we're gonna clip this in place so your straight edge is going to be against the edge of your panel. Make sure you grab the right one. You want to have the long pointed edge facing inward of your pockets. Got our wings. That looks good. All right, moving on, we are going to place these together and sew the bottom edge. All right, and what we're going to do is we are going to press this seam open, and then we're going to sew the edges of the seam down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the final assembly. So we're going to need our completed lining panels. We're going to need both of our exterior panels, and then we're going to need our final overlay. So we're going to go ahead and do the overlay first. So this needs to be wrong side up. Make sure that this is the side where the seam is open. And what we're going to do is match this up with the seams here. And it is a little bit bigger, but that's okay. We'll trim it down, and you match up this with the seam. right, now what we're going to do is we're going to place this right side up. I'm gonna kind of tuck my zipper in there. And then now you want to figure out which side of the lining do you want on the back and then the front. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the back panel to go against the zipper. So what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of put this down a little bit, because we're gonna have to tuck this in. So we're gonna place these right sides together, and then we're gonna clip them in place. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to place this right on top of each other, so right sides together. And then we're going to baste this in place all the way around. We're going to be leaving this open. These pieces should be touching each other. That's how we're going to close the bag, okay? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to trim the corners. What we're going to do is we're going to trim this out, and don't worry about all of your stabilizer. We can go back and iron it. I'm going to go ahead and pull this through carefully. Oh my goodness, that is looking so pretty. Holy smokes, okay. All right, so now you want to take your overlay here and gently bring it around to the bottom here. Okay. Oh my goodness, that is so cute. Look at that. I need to trim down all these threads, but what? Oh my goodness. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to close up this opening. You can do that by using glue, or if you want to use sticky tape, you can do that. Whatever you want to do. Mine is actually pretty snug, so I think what I'm going to do is probably use double-sided tape for this. What we're going to do is we're going to close this up by sewing 1/8 of an inch on both sides, okay? getting down to the last steps. So now what we need to do is we're gonna top stitch along the back side or the front side of your bag. We are going to clip your wings inside. So go ahead and clip them, and then you want to make sure to put your D-rings inside. We don't want to hit that with our needle. You want to have your flap down, and also if you have your zipper pull, you want to kind of tuck it in like I have here. You can tuck it in or you can tape it down, whatever you need to do to make sure you don't hit this with your needle, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and clip this and top stitch this so we are almost done. And then when we're done with that, we are going to sew our wings together and turn it out, and then we will be all done with the bag. All right, turn your bag lining side out and clip your wings and sew them together. Let's turn it inside out. Go ahead and give that a press. There you go. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoy making this Lemonza clutch, and also don't forget to grab your 10% off until April 21st. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. See you in the next one.